Melody walked down those courthouse steps with calm determination. Her steps were light, but her heart carried the weight of years. Her tired eyes now shone with a new light, the light that comes after endless nights of pain, humiliation, and sleepless tears. When she finally sat inside her car, she didn't look back once. Instead, she looked up at the sky and whispered a quiet, "Thank you." This isn't just my win, she thought. It's the beginning of my children's freedom. When Melody reached home, her children ran into her arms. She hugged them tightly, her heart swelling as their innocent faces finally showed peace. "Mama, everything will be okay now, right?" one of them asked. Melody smiled, pulled them closer, and said softly, "Yes, baby. Nothing can break us now." She knew this court victory wasn't the end of her battle. It was the start of a new chapter. Life ahead wouldn't be easy, but she was no longer the fragile woman she once was. Melody was now a mother, a fighter, a businesswoman, and a survivor who had turned her pain into power. Meanwhile, outside the courthouse's back door, Martell emerged quietly, avoiding the front steps filled with media. But cameras still found him. "Martell, any reaction to the verdict? Will you appeal?" Reporters shouted, flashing their cameras. Martell didn't answer. He kept his head down and walked silently to his car. Maybe there were no words left, because sometimes the loudest sound of defeat is silence. When he sat in the car, he shut the door and stared out the window. A suffocating feeling filled his chest. Part guilt, part regret. His lawyer broke the silence with a low voice. "We did everything we could." Martell shook his head slowly. "No," he whispered. "Maybe this is all my own doing." As the car rolled through Huntsville's quiet streets, the judge's final words echoed in his mind. The children deserve a peaceful environment, one free from conflict and chaos. Those words pierced his heart like a blade. When Martell's mother heard the news, she didn't speak for a while. Then she said softly, "Son, sometimes God lets us fall, just so we can learn to kneel." Martell didn't respond. He locked himself in his room, scrolling through old pictures of Melody and the kids, photos of happier days when they laughed together, ate dinner at one table, and believed love was forever. But now, those memories were just shadows of what once was. He looked at himself in the mirror. The same face that once carried pride and charm now looked defeated. Where did I go wrong? He whispered again and again. The next morning, social media exploded with the news. Melody Holt wins full custody. The internet went wild. Some celebrated Melody's strength. Others criticized Martell, saying he should focus on healing, not hurting. Every comment cut him deeper. Because the court of public opinion can be crueler than any judge. While the world talked, Melody got back to work. She posted a heartfelt video. "It wasn't easy, but every time I fell, I chose to rise again. I don't just want to win anymore. I want peace." Within hours, her video went viral. It wasn't just a business comeback. It was a message to every woman who's ever been broken. Martell vanished from social media. No posts, no lives, no interviews. Sources close to him said he stayed at his mother's home, sitting quietly in his old room. Sometimes he'd cry, holding his kids' toys in his hands, but couldn't bring himself to call them. Late one night, he reread old text messages from Melody. One stood out. "Martell, never argue in front of the kids. They're watching. They're learning." He finally understood what she meant. Melody stayed quiet too. No interviews. No statements. Her silence spoke louder than words. She focused on her children. School events, bedtime stories, and family dinners. One night her daughter said, "Mom, you never break." Melody smiled gently. "I do, sweetheart. But I get back up. Because if I fall, we all fall." For the first time, Martell decided to face his pain. He began therapy. When the therapist asked, "Can you forgive?" he said quietly, "I don't know. Maybe one day. Myself first." It was a small step, but the first true one. Months passed. Melody's company, 7th Avenue Beauty, flourished. She started getting awards and new opportunities. Martell slowly began to rebuild too. He spoke differently now. In one interview, he said, "Losing everything taught me more than success ever did." It wasn't the same Martell who once blamed others. Melody learned something too, that peace doesn't come from victory, but from letting go. And Martell learned that peace begins when you stop fighting yourself. They were no longer enemies, just two people walking different paths, carrying lessons, not bitterness. Weeks later, Melody stood by her window, watching her children get ready for school. The sunlight touched her face, and she whispered, "It ends here. The pain, the noise, it ends today." She had full custody now, but also full responsibility, and the loneliness that came with it. For Martell, the court's decision felt like a sentence. He had lost his reputation, his pride, even his place as a father. His sponsors pulled away, friends went silent, and online hate grew louder. One night, he sat alone watching an old video of him and Melody singing together. His eyes filled with tears. "What have I done?" he whispered to the empty room. That same night, Melody looked up at the stars from her rooftop. She saw Martell's new post, a photo of an empty gym with the caption, "I'm still here, but for how long?" She paused, sighed, and turned her phone off. Some doors, she realized, are better left closed. Martell's therapy continued. He no longer wanted fame. He wanted redemption, to become a man his kids could be proud of. When the therapist asked, "What do you truly want, Martell?" he replied, "I just want my children to never be ashamed of me." Melody, meanwhile, became an icon of strength. Her motivational speeches and videos inspired millions. "Loving yourself," she said once, "is not weakness. It's courage." Her words became a movement. When asked in an interview, "Have you forgiven Martell?" she paused, then said, "Forgiveness isn't freeing him. It's freeing my heart." That line broke the internet. Thousands of women commented, "We felt that." Martell, too, began to heal. When a radio station invited him to speak for their series, Men Who Lost Everything, he hesitated, then agreed. For the first time, he admitted publicly, "I broke a strong woman because I was weak inside. I thought control meant power, but real power is respect." Millions listened. Even Melody heard a part of it, smiled faintly, and whispered, "Maybe he's finally learning." Months later, Martell saw his children again under court supervision. When his son ran toward him, he burst into tears. Melody stood from a distance, watching quietly. Sometimes the best revenge isn't revenge at all. It's seeing someone change. By the end of the year, Melody's book Rise Again became a national bestseller. At the award ceremony, Martell showed up silently. Cameras flashed, people whispered. But when the ceremony ended, Martell walked over, extended his hand, and said, "Congratulations, Melody. You did it." Melody smiled warmly. "We both did, just on different roads." For a moment, both stood still. No bitterness, no blame, just quiet respect. Because some stories don't end. They evolve. Melody and Martell's journey teaches one truth. Pain doesn't define you. Growth does. And when you stop fighting your past, you finally meet your peace. So if you've ever been broken, remember, healing is the greatest comeback. Type in the comments, "I will rise again." Because maybe, just maybe, your story will inspire someone else to do the same. As the crowd applauded and cameras continued to flash, Melody stood on that stage holding her award, her eyes glistening with tears she refused to hide. This wasn't just about success, it was about survival. Every insult, every betrayal, every lonely night had led to this exact moment. The applause wasn't just for her, it was for every woman who had been silenced, doubted, and underestimated, yet chose to rise again. When she stepped down from the stage, she caught a glimpse of Martell walking toward the exit. For a brief second, their eyes met. No anger, no resentment. Just two souls who had finally made peace with the past. Melody gave a small nod, a silent acknowledgement of everything they had survived. Martell nodded back before quietly walking away. That was the closure both of them had needed. Not words, but understanding. Later that night, as Melody drove home, she looked out the window and saw the lights of Huntsville flickering like tiny stars. She smiled softly. Life had come full circle. The same city that once witnessed her breakdown was now witnessing her rebirth. At home, her kids were waiting, jumping excitedly when she walked through the door. "Mommy, did you win?" one of them shouted. Melody knelt down, holding the trophy close. "We all did," she said with a radiant smile. Her daughter touched the award and whispered, "I'm proud of you, Mommy." In that moment, Melody knew that every tear, every sleepless night, had been worth it. Meanwhile, in another part of town, Martell sat on his porch, looking at the night sky. The cool breeze brushed against his face as he thought about the past year. For the first time, he didn't feel angry or bitter. He felt grateful. Grateful for lessons, for pain, for the chance to become better. He took a deep breath and said quietly to himself, "This time, I'll get it right." He had started mentoring young men in his community, teaching them about emotional control, respect, and accountability. "You don't have to lose everything to learn," he told them. And though his journey wasn't perfect, it was real. Healing, after all, isn't a destination. It's a process. It's a process.